I got it. Shh, just give me a chance here. Hey YouTube fam, Kitty here, dropping some camera knowledge. Sony's been killing it innovating technology in what was a fairly stagnant camera market. Today I'll be looking at Sony's two newest mirrorless releases, the A7R II and the A7S2, and compare them for professional use. Firstly, let's look at the differences. They both use different autofocusing systems. The A7R II uses 399 phase detect autofocusing points, in addition to contrast detect. The A7S2 solely relies on contrast detect. The A7R II is a clear winner because it could hold focus. I could put this camera on a Movi at a 1.8 and it'll hold. In low light, however, they both end up using contrast detect and are both even at that point. I'm really liking the image quality, so much better than the 5D. For stills, the A7R II focuses down to a -2 EV and the A7S focuses down to a -4 EV. It's important, but I've never been on location where there wasn't enough light to focus, and it only matters if you're using native glass. The A7S2 shoots an S-Log3 in addition to everything the A7R II has. Every time I hear the word S-Log, I think of the word silog. And I know you Filipinos know what I'm talking about. They both, however, shoot an 8-bit 420 color space. So S-Log's extremely linear curve stretches the codec, and I generally stay away from it. The A7R II could shoot an S-Log2 at a base ISO of 800. The A7S2 could shoot at a base ISO of 1600. This means it's easier to expose during the daytime. I recommend shooting in Cine 4 Cinema Picture Profile. It has less noise in the shadows, it's close to dynamic ranges log, it's easier to grade, and has no base ISO limit. The A7S2 has this nifty gamma assist, but you can't load custom LUTs. So I rely on my Pix E5 external monitor for that. Hey, we're in Chinatown shooting some B-roll. I'm gonna talk about 4K right quick. In the hierarchy of image quality, I would place the A7R II at the top at 4K crop mode. It's essentially a downscaled image from 5K. Second would be the A7S2 at 4K full frame mode. Its full sensor readout is free from defects like moire and aliasing. And third would be the A7R3. The A7R II 4K full frame has a little bit of that and a little bit less detail. We should all know about their high ISO capabilities, but do we know their usable limits? The A7S2 in 4K full frame could shoot up to 25,600 ISO. I wouldn't shoot past 12,800 with the A7R II at 4K crop mode. In full frame mode, I wouldn't go past 2,500. No one needs 200,000 ISO in real life use. Hi, we're in Union Square, about to shoot the ice skaters. For stills, the A7R II is the obvious winner. With 42 megapixels on a 35mm BSI sensor, with the low light capabilities and dynamic range, it is amazing. So what's happening is on the Sony A7R II, 42 megapixels and 14-bit RAW is a lot to process, so it's really slow. So I wouldn't recommend it as a sports camera. Sorry, Curry. But I know how to love you. The A7S II holds color a bit better at higher ISOs, and at 20 megapixels, it's plenty for most destinations, so don't rule it out for photography purposes. Only the A7S II shoots full HD at 120 frames per second. The A7R does this, but only at 720. Remember that the A7S II has a 2x crop, so I like to pop on the Metabone Speed Booster T Ultra to get some of that crop back and also a little bit of light. because you'll mostly be shooting at 250th of a second. Good news, for those of you experiencing overheating issues with your A7R2s, Sony has recently developed a firmware to help with this issue. I recently ran a test and I got up to 2.5 hours continuously without overheating or shutting down once, as opposed to before when it overheated after the first 30-minute run. So Michael and I are here eating at Enjoy Vegetarian in San Francisco. And one of the things I would like to talk to you about is how customizable the A series are. Okay, so one of the things I swapped out was the dial setup between these two. Originally, this is f-stop and this is shutter speed, but I kept getting them mixed up, so I just flipped it. Up here at C1, I customized it to steady shot focal length because I use Canon lenses and I can't really use auto steady shot, so I like to set it myself manually to make sure it's super steady. C2 is my white balance. I know you could get to it easily with the function tab, but I just like to skip a step and put it up there. My C3 is my audio level adjust, because I shoot a lot of video, so it helps out a lot. My C4 is picture profile. I could easily just click it, change the picture profile, instead of going through the entire menu. One thing that Sony doesn't have that I wish it did was having a custom button for the APS-C 35mm mode. Usually I just keep it on default, so then I could just switch it on and off, no problem. But having a button would make it a ton easier. The 5-axis image stabilization is also amazing. I could throw one of these with a wide lens on a fig rig and get near movie looking shots. They do share some irritating things as well. The battery life on these are both horrendous. Each battery gives around 45 minutes. Luckily, they could both power with the micro USB and a cheap little external battery pack. The EVF LCD auto switching is hella annoying, so I turn mine off. Take that shit out of there. Also, the XAVCS 4K codec is efficient and card space saving, although it is taxing on my computer. If I'm running 3 camera angles, a sharpening mask, LUTs, and a grade, then my 24TB 8-bay RAID and new Mac Pro start choking and I get this spinning beach ball of death. So it's better to transcode everything into ProRes first, and depending on how much you shoot, it could take a few hours to an entire night. And we all know time is money. For most projects, 1 camera angle with the XAVCS 4K codec is fine editing on a MacBook Pro, so don't be discouraged. I believe with the new firmware that the Sony A7R2 is the most compelling option. Unless you absolutely need to shoot in extremely high ISOs, then your A7S2 is your go-to. If you're looking for something a little bit more robust in the video department, then the Sony FS5 is something you might want to consider. Either way, Sony has put out some feature-packed, technology-leading cameras. And even though it's still confusing for some, I hope that my insight and overview has helped you in some way. Done. Oh, damn tape.